Welcome to episode number 88 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. We're recording live on Google Hangouts on Air on March 21, 2015. My name is David Erickson. I'm your co-host. You can find me at D. Erickson, and I'm the VP. You can find me at D. Erickson on Twitter, and I'm the VP of Online Marketing for Karowski & Courage, Minneapolis Public Relations Firm. I am with my co-host, BL Ochman. BL you can find at What's Next, and she is the CEO of Maximum-Plus.com. She writes for Ad Age. We have a format for the show. If you haven't watched before, we started off with the worst things that happened in online communications. Over the past week, we follow that up with the best things that happened. We talk about some shiny new objects we're enamored with, and wrap it up with some stats, some marketing stats you'll want to know. BL always has the honors to kick it off with the worst thing that happened. So, BL, what were the worst things that happened last week?
Good morning, Dave. Well, there were a number of things that were pretty bad, but this one happens over and over. And here's a situation where a big brand ripped off a little guy in an ad. And what happened was that in 2013, in a book, Eric Dahl of Nashville tells a story about how he found a guitar that had been stolen from B.B. King, and he found it in a Las Vegas pawn shop. He bought the guitar for $2,162, and he returned it to King. And King, who's now 89 years old, he gave him an autographed version of a different Gibson Lucille guitar when they met. And then, all of a sudden, recently, Toyota comes out with a 30-second spot that shows a young woman finding a guitar that says Lucille in a storage bay, and she returns it to King, and he gives her an autographed guitar. So Dahl sued the agency and Toyota, and the agency is Saatchi & Saatchi, and the producer is a company called Smuggler, and he sued Toyota in federal court in Nevada for copyright infringement because apparently he had offered to share the story for a licensing fee, and Toyota turned him down. And a judge, fortunately, denied Toyota the right to dismiss the case the other day. There's just no excuse for that.
Well, I mean, it's not like you didn't see this coming. The guy did contact him to try and work out a deal for the licensing thing, so it's not like this couldn't have been predicted.
Exactly. I mean, so many of these things could easily have been predicted if anybody had thought about it, It's what they're doing in the worst category. So speaking of things that can be predicted, American Airlines displayed their complete and utter heartlessness towards a family whose little girl, a 9-year-old little girl, died of an asthma attack, and they were going to go on a family vacation, and the family, whose last name is Cantrell, decided they couldn't face the vacation without the kid, and so they asked American Airlines to refund their tickets, and American Airlines asked for a death certificate, which they supplied. And to their surprise, they get a letter that says, after reviewing the documentation submitted, it's been determined that the request does not meet our exception requirements. The ticket purchased is non-refundable. We can't offer a refund, issue a travel voucher, or transfer the ticket to another person. So the mother posted on Facebook, and a social media storm ensues, and American Airlines relents. The kicker is that they put it on Twitter and Facebook saying that they had changed their minds and that they had refunded the money, but they forgot to tell the family. That's from, by the way, Joan Stewart, the publicity hound. Thank you, Joan.
It's a convenient excuse. I mean, what is the exception policy? If you ask for the death certificate, I mean, then I assume that that's one of the exceptions.
Yeah, well, that is one of the exceptions, and they just, somebody just had some sort of knee-jerk, stupid reaction, but what did they think would happen? Given that everybody has access to the internet, what did they think would happen?
No. Here's a I think it goes in the bad, but it also goes in the no-duh department. The FTC there's an FTC report that reveals how Google manipulated search results. So this is from Engadget. Marella Moon is the reporter. Several years ago, FTC decided not to pursue antitrust lawsuit against Google for manipulating the search results. The FTC staffers report has now been made public, and so due to an opens records request, It's a 160-page report, and the employees of the FTC found evidence that Google is demoting its competitors' sites in favor of its own in search results, even if they weren't as helpful. So like Google Flights, for instance, would rank highly during staff's test searches, even though they didn't offer as many options as other flight aggregators like Travel Advisor, right? Former Google executive and now CEO of Yahoo, Marissa Mayer, once said that Google didn't rank its own websites based on click-through rates like it does others, so there's that. The FTC discovered that Google had a special algorithm to boost its own products' placements in the search results. Google Local, for example, has higher rankings than Yelp. Yelp has its own problems, so you can argue about that, but it's it's not surprising that Google ranks its own stuff higher. Those of us in marketing and SEO and stuff have known that for a long time. YouTube videos get higher ranking than other video sites. So it's sort of it's kind of no duh, but this makes it official. The report makes it official. So.
I think that needs to be a new segment, no duh department, because there's a few of those every week. Like, okay, that's to be expected. What did you think was going to happen? So we have a story that we disagree on. I have it in worst and you have it in best. So, and that story is Starbucks. And this week, baristas at 12,000 Starbucks locations were given the task of starting conversations with customers about race relations. They were asked to write a hashtag #RaceTogether on customers' coffee cups to spark discussions. And CEO Howard Schultz, for whom I have the greatest of respect, says the campaign was inspired by a company forum that they had in December, and 40% of their nearly 200,000 employees are part of a racial minority group. And so unfortunately, the reception to the campaign was overwhelmingly negative. And many people, there was a backlash that began. And that night, Corey Dubrawa, Starbucks Senior VP of Communications, deleted his Twitter account, which is why I have it in the worst of category, because he said I was personally attacked through my Twitter account around midnight, and tweets represented a distraction from the respectful conversation we're trying to start here around race together. But that wasn't the answer. And so some of the things that came about was Josh Hogan said they can't even call a coffee a small. How the hell is Starbucks going to fix racism? And somebody else said Starbucks at Corey wanted to talk about race so much he deleted his account after people started talking to him about it. And then he came back in Medium and he explained why he had done it. Well, and then the hashtag got hijacked, and the hijack was new Starbucks drinks. I can't be racist because I had 2 black coffees, was a tweet by somebody named Dez. And House Negroes and Filter Negroes, new Starbucks drinks. Which mocha latte can't jump, new Starbucks drinks. Now, I just want to say, before you tell us why you think this was great, that if Howard Schultz were to run for president, I would vote for him, because I think he's remarkably progressive. I think he has tried to start conversations around issues that needed conversation. But do not talk to me before I am caffeinated. If I walked into Starbucks and you asked me to have a conversation about something that weighty, I'd have to walk out. I can't talk before I have coffee.
Well, there are problems with this campaign, and you've listed some of them. So I mean, you can't lead and try and spark conversations about race, and then have your chief communicator delete his account and not talk about what you want to talk about, right? Yeah. Twitter is not the place to have a discussion on race. You can't have a good discussion on racial issues in 140 characters. It's just not possible.
Exactly.
The anonymity on Twitter is going to spark those types of reactions, right? So I'm not surprised he deleted his account. I don't doubt that he got a lot of nasty responses. He shouldn't have done it anyway. So I think the effort needs to be applauded. There are plenty of problems with it. You detailed some of them. It puts employees in an awkward situation, right? So I walked into my Starbucks yesterday, and took a picture of the display for the Race Together display they had up, and the white woman barista behind the counter sort of rolled her eyes at me like, this new initiative. She was working with 2 African American employees. So I think there's just, it puts the employees themselves in an awkward, tense situation, having to discuss it. Prompting customers, as you said, strangers, to have a discussion on race is probably not going to work. I mean, I don't want to have a discussion on race with complete strangers.
Exactly.
You cannot have an honest discussion about race with complete strangers. It requires trust. That being said, the hashtag or prompting those discussions among other people is probably a good thing. So if my cup comes with a hashtag and I'm with somebody that I'm having coffee with, maybe that prompts a discussion among the person that I'm having coffee with. Or I could bring the cup somewhere else, and that hashtag prompts a discussion among other people that I trust, right? That's laudable. So I think they need to be given credit for it, for willing to put their neck out and take criticism and prompt discussion on an issue that needs discussion, and so good for them. They are also following it up with a hiring effort, so they're not just putting their mouth out there, they're putting their money behind it. This is from an Ad Age article by Maureen Morrison on they're going to focus on hiring effort of disenfranchised youth, initiative to hire young people of color, African Americans and Latinos who are unemployed and out of school. So they're sort of going to put some money behind it and actually hire people as well. So good for them.
And they have done an effort in the past to hire veterans, and they have sparked other conversations, and I do agree that that is laudable. I just think the way it was handled was wrong, and I agree with you. You can't have that conversation on Twitter with or in a coffee shop with people that all you usually say is, I'll have a mocha latte, good morning, how are you, and I mean, it's all just superficial. So to try and change that when people are in a hurry, especially, not going to work. So you have a story that I have a personal experience with, so go ahead and tell us about the Durst thing.
Oh, so this was, we're going back to bad on this one. So Robert Durst, the New York real estate magnate, or part of the family of the Durst family, who is a real estate dynasty in New York. He is sort of the black sheep of the family, and the subject of an HBO docudrama called The Jinx. And so if you haven't watched this show, it is it just recently concluded. It is looking at, so he was suspected of murdering his wife in New York, his publicist in California. He actually stood trial for the murder of his neighbor in Texas, whom he dismembered and admitted to dismembering, but was acquitted of the murder charges of that neighbor. In the last episode of this series, he gets caught on tape talking to himself and essentially confessing or admitting to the murders. He said, "I killed them all," or "killed them all." He was arrested recently after this last episode aired, just before the last episode aired, and will stand trial for the murder of his publicist in Los Angeles. So it just strikes me that this is HBO's answer to the Serial podcast, which was basically had the same premise. Both looked at actual murders, right? Serial looked at whether the convicted person was actually innocent. HBO looked at whether the acquitted person was actually guilty. The case in Serial is being reopened, and now Durst is going to stand trial again. So my question is this a new genre, true crime reality shows, where the reality happens after the show?
Well, the funny thing about this is that my landlord was partnering with the Durst organization for several years. They built a bunch of buildings together. So one time I had the flu, and I asked the guys at the video store to send me something funny, and for some bizarre reason, they sent me the film that Jarecki made before this series about Robert Durst. I think it was called Everything's Okay or All Good or something. And in that one, they had him also kill the family dog. And I called. I said, "Why did you think that was funny? What was funny about that? It was horrifying." And I was thinking like, "Oh my God, I hope he's not coming to our building." But they recently ended their I was going to say severed their partnership, but that's the wrong word in this case. But they recently ended their partnership, so who knows what happened there. But he's one scary looking guy, and the police say that they had evidence to arrest him before the HBO so-called confession or not confession, whatever it was. But what a bizarre person.
Absolutely.
So YouTube did something very cool this week. They created YouTube for artists and cards for video annotations. And YouTube for artists is intended for musicians, mostly, to help them to connect with their fans and give them some better tools for their videos. And the cards are a substitute for the notes and other types of annotations that are a little clunky on YouTube videos, and give us the ability to add links to our website, to product sites, to a variety of different things that we might want to promote. And they're still in development, but they're very elegant looking. They include your avatar, and they appear. We have the ability to make additions and changes to them after we do a recording, and I think that this will continue to evolve. This was just launched this week, but very, very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. It should be noted that the links need to be to your own website that you verify in your account, in your YouTube account. So we can, for Beyond Social Media Show, we can only link to our own BeyondSocialMediaShow.com website. For my eStrategy channel, I can only link to my eStrategy. It would be nice if we were able to link to third-party sources, so we could link to the stories that we're talking about, and you could actually click on them while you're watching the video, but that's unfortunately not the case, and maybe it'll evolve that way. But
I think it will evolve that way. I think what they're basically creating is a substitute for the showcase that is part of Hangouts on Air. The showcase is kind of clunky because it pops out of the page where you're watching the video, and this stays in the video and in the live broadcast. So I think that this is just evolving right now, but to me this is just another indicator that Google Plus is not going anywhere and that Hangouts are being improved on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah. Video related, this I think is fascinating. So Monica Lewinsky is in the news again. She gave a TED Talk on the price of shame. It's a
quite fascinating.
Yeah, it's a 20-minute talk, and it's absolutely fascinating. It's a must-watch. She's basically the first casualty of this high-tech public shaming that we've seen more, and we're seeing more and more of. In the video, she talks about her experience and being suddenly thrust into the public eye with the most intimate aspects of her personhood examined ad nauseum. You can imagine what that can do to a person. She clearly was despondent over it. She made a stupid, youthful mistake, and it's open for the public, for the world to see. We're seeing that happen a lot now with the ability on social to shame people for making a mistake. She's giving this talk to offer hope to people who have had public shaming experiences and to call attention to the issue, and she does a good job doing it. She's also very cleverly reclaiming the public definition of who she is, right? By doing this, she's basically taking back who she is as a person, who people understand her to be by changing the narrative of who she is, and good for her. She doesn't really have a solution. I think the solution is forcing public identities. So on Twitter, you can be anonymous. Facebook knows that it has it right. You have your identity attached to your comments. Once you own your comments, a lot of that stuff goes away. So
I agree that that is one thing, and she's trying to identify with the very serious issue of bullying, and because she indeed was bullied, and she was just made, you know, she might as well have had a big A on her chest. She really, really was the first who had this experience on what was then called the World Wide Web. You know, it wasn't. I mean, there was no Facebook. There was, as she points out in her talk, it was pre-social media, and yet it got around big time. Speaking about getting around, NASA is doing a live broadcast with the astronauts who are going to the space station. They're going to show the takeoff, and we'll be able to ask questions from Twitter with AskNASA, the hashtag AskNASA. So I just, you know, I watched a conference with the astronauts the other day, and I'm just in love with everything that NASA does in social media. I cannot imagine a better way to use social media than the way that NASA does.
They're fantastic. They're fantastic. So this is fantastic. I think everyone will agree. Facebook is buying a company that could solve the annoying ad problem. What is that annoying ad problem? I'll get to it. This is from an Adweek article by Garrett Sloan. So Facebook just bought a company called The Find. They are an early e-commerce player. They're founded in 2005. And basically they crawled retailer websites and delivered shopping search results. So just shopping-related search results. Facebook is going to shut the site down, the search engine down, but incorporate the technology into their advertising services. And this article quotes a source with knowledge of the deal. Facebook will embed The Find in its advertising to help retarget retail ads with more relevance. And the quote here, this will help eliminate redundant ads. Say you're looking at a pair of jeans on the Gap website, you won't see those ads after you buy them.
For the next
Finally, somebody has a solution to this problem.
The next 6 months, you'll see the thing you already bought. Go figure. Who thought that algorithm made sense? So this was an article from the Wall Street Journal CMO marketing blog by Nathalie Tadina. And Google is launching a branded content video series called Behind the Scenes. And what they're doing is they're profiling the production and the execution of Clean and Clear's See the Real Me campaign. And the aim of the videos, which Google produced, is to show brands and their agencies how to create more compelling video content. And there's a 6-minute video, and you know, they're saying in the description, as digital video becomes an increasingly important part of the marketing mix, how do brands shift their strategies to keep up, get an inside look at blah, blah, blah. And so they show how it was planned, how it was produced, and the partnership is how they made a partnership with MTV's Music Awards. And that's a wonderful thing for YouTube to be doing, because brands don't quite get how to use video, and this is going to help.
Very cool. Very cool. Video is the gift that keeps giving. I love it.
So I think that brings us to shiny objects, unless you have another goodie.
That's it. What do you got?
Well, this was relaunched this week. Storify's Twitter cards. They redesigned them and they relaunched them. And basically you get a prettier presentation of your story title and author, and avatars of the people quoted. It's just a more beautiful treatment of the tweets and the text portions that you add. And so now when you tweet the link to your Storify stories, that was easy to say, the Twitter cards has a very nice visual experience, and every element of the story gets its own card. And so really a very nice addition to Storify.
Cool. You got another one that's probably going to expand as our laws loosen up.
Yeah, Smokeable clothing. I love this one. The hookah's built in. You know, it's sweatshirts where you can smoke through the strings on your hoodie, and there's. You can buy a $99 one on sale from vaporware.com, or you can get one for $124 from I don't know how to pronounce it. Hood Horkers. And that story came through Leo Lutero on PSFK, and they're quite hilarious. I mean, you just like reach into your sweatshirt and light it up.
Well, I just hope people won't be using them for tobacco. I smoked for many, many years and never realized how awful the smell of tobacco in clothing is until after I quit. I like the smell of tobacco in the air, I still do, but oh my God, when you see somebody come in, or smell, somebody comes in from having a smoke, it reeks. It's horrible.
Yeah, they really reek. I mean, I was a 3-pack-a-day smoker, so, you know, guilty. But I stopped 25 years ago, you know. And to this day, I see people smoking, and I think, oh, my God, that person's on fire.
No, I have a Ramdom App. It's literally called Ramdom App, and it's awesome. So it's basically a social news app without the connections to your social network. So you can you don't even need to register for it. You explore the web anonymously, and it doesn't require registration. You just download the app and start using it, and it gives you random stories. It's sort of a tiled interface like Pinterest-y. And you just tap on the stuff that you're interested in. It learns from what you're tapping on, and basically in the aggregate for the data from across all their users. And it presents you just random stories that are interesting. It's a way to deliberately, in this day of filters, in this day of subscriptions, in this day of getting all your news coming to you and how you want it and algorithms and stuff, it's a way of deliberately introducing serendipity into your knowledge consumption, and I think that's needed. So I think it's I've been using it. I love it.
That's interesting. That's very similar to StumbleUpon, but easier to use, right?
Yeah, which is funny you say, because I just downloaded the StumbleUpon app too, and I was going to save it for next week. I use the StumbleUpon app in the same way too. So
okay, that brings us.
Yeah, it brings us to the daily numbers. I think we're done.
Yes, it does.
All right, so for the daily numbers this week, I have, scroll, business professionals' primary workday distractions. So how are you distracted during the day as a business professional? This is from Accenture, November 2014 worldwide survey. 36% of respondents said distractions prevented them from doing their best work. Their primary distractions during the workday, 32% said phone calls. And that's not all cold calling, though it seems like it to me sometimes. 30% said unscheduled meetings or unannounced visitors. Only 13% said email. 10% said commitments from outside of work. So people aren't just being distracted with their family life at work. They're being distracted by other stuff at work. 8% said instant messages on their phone. 6% said instant messages like instant messages. 6% said text messages. So a lot of the electronic stuff is not even included. It's mostly old school communications, phone calls among them.
I didn't know anybody made enough phone calls for that to be that big a distraction.
I think it's a lot of it is internal phone calls.
Yes. Well, mine is email for sure. I mean, 800 a day, they're driving me out of my mind. So that brings us to the last episode, to the end. No, we'll be back. We'll be back next week, same time, same station. That brings us to the end of episode 88 of the Beyond Social Media show, and we thank you for joining us. And links to all of the Beyond Social Media show stories that we covered will be on our blog, on the playlist, and the video will be timestamped, so you'll be able to click on the time to jump directly to any segment. And we hope that you will leave us a review at beyondsocialmediashow.com/love. You'll find David Erickson on Twitter. He's D. Erickson. His blog is eStrategyBlog.com. He blogs at creativepr.com/blog. And I'm BL Ochman. I'm at What's Next on Twitter. What's Next blog is where I blog. Maximum-Plus is my company for all things Google Plus and online YouTube events. The show, BeyondSocialMediaShow.com, at BS Media Show on Twitter. And we have a new newsletter, which we hope you will subscribe to. I happen to think it's pretty terrific. It's BeyondSocialMediaShow.com/newsletter. And it includes content we don't have time to cover during the show, and some awesome things, and some moments of joy, and some content that we think you will enjoy. And you also will find us on iTunes and Stitcher, and we are Beyond Social Media Show in both cases, and we hope that we would really appreciate if you would go there and leave us a review. That would really be helpful to us. So we will see you next week, and same time, same station, and we thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching.